Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Trevor Swan, the 73rd ABCFP president, and as of our AGM yesterday, now the association's immediate past president. It's my honor to serve as MC for this, our first ever virtual inductees recognition event. This is a very special event, one where we welcome new forest professionals as ABCFP registrants. Before we get underway, I want to recognize the ongoing support of Interfor, sponsor of today's inductees recognition event. Interfor is a longtime supporter of the ABCFP conference and our inductees event, which in normal times would see us gather in person for lunch. Interfor directly employs more than 900 people in BC in its woodlands, sawmills, and corporate offices. Over the past decade, the company has emerged as one of the world's largest forest products companies with first-class facilities and the broadest range of products of any of the major lumber companies. Interfor's mission is to build value in everything it does every day. Since 2002, it has invested nearly $1 billion to help increase efficiency, keep employees safe, and deliver high-quality products. Interfor is also committed to helping forest professionals grow and learn, and we thank them for their continued support of our conference and our new forest professionals. Now, let's take a moment to watch this short video.
Interfor's relationships with First Nations communities contribute to sustainability by providing our planners with a broad understanding of Indigenous values.
This is by far the most beautiful place I've ever worked for the wildlife. You see here is just, you don't see this wildlife anywhere else. We got doves down at the beach, you got elk here up here in the bush, bobcats, cougars, grizzlies, of course, black bear, you name it, it's all here. And it just, to me, it just gives me a feeling home.
My experience with stewardship at Interfor has been shaped by my mentors. Everyone lives in the communities and recreates on the land, which I think comes through in the care for the different landscape values and working with different groups to maintain those values.
Interfor has driven sustainability through leadership and a proactive approach to change. Like back in 2001, Interfor became the first Canadian company to certify its woodlands operations to the SFI Forest Management Standard. Or on the mill side, conversions from natural gas to renewable biomass fuel. Interfor completed their first conversion over 13 years ago, and that was here in BC.
Interfor is one of our major economic bases to our community. I have seen personally myself Interfor engage with our community, stakeholders, local government, First Nations, and take part in educational opportunities and try to keep the public informed of its operations.
What makes me proudest about working at Interfor is the leadership. The expectation and the support to continuously improve our environmental performance, to contribute to the communities that we work in, but really most of all to be leaders in providing renewable, sustainable wood products to the world.
On behalf of Interfor, I'm very pleased to welcome new forest professionals into the association. We're proud to be a legacy sponsor of this event and to support the important work that forest professionals do for its membership.
Be sure to check out interfor.com to learn more about career opportunities and its vision for the future. For the new inductees, today is an important milestone in your professional career. If these were normal times, we would be meeting together in a Vancouver hotel sharing lunch. I would be on stage along with the association's registrar, Casey McCauley, and we would individually recognize each of the year's inductees and present them with an RPF or RFT pin, and our code of ethics. Unfortunately, these are not normal times, and Casey and I truly regret that we cannot personally greet each of you. Instead, we will begin a scroll of all of our inductees' names, photos of those who provided them, and the names of their sponsoring forest professional. Today, we are welcoming 126 new registered forest professionals into the ABCFP family. Please watch your screen for your names and feel free to applaud at home. Today's group of inductees is the first class of forest professionals to be inducted as the new Professional Governance Act comes into effect. The PGA replaces the Foresters Act, which has guided our profession since 1947. The aim of the PGA is to improve the protection of the public interest. As you will discover, the public interest in BC's forests is a vast and at times very complicated subject. This in part is why BC legislation allows only those who are registered with the ABCFP to practice forestry in BC. The association ensures only qualified individuals with the appropriate education and experience, who are competent, who are held accountable for their work, and who follow a code of ethics of professional standards are admitted to the association and allowed to practice professional forestry. Becoming a registered forest professional is a privilege, and it comes with great responsibility. As a registered forest professional, you must hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public and the protection of the environment. At all times, your practice of professional forestry must be undertaken in a manner that protects the public interest by ensuring the multiple values society has assigned to BC's forests are balanced and considered. To protect the public interest, all registrants practicing professional forestry must be accountable and adhere to the ethical and professional standards set out in the association's Code of Ethical and Professional Conduct. As forest professionals, our job is to assess the values of the forested landscape, including Indigenous culture, wildlife, water resources, non-timber forest resources, recreation, and tourism, and make management decisions based on careful consideration of these values. But these values constantly change as society changes. Our challenges is to identify and prioritize what is important to the people of BC and to incorporate it into our plans. Regardless of whether you are in the woods or in the office, if you are making decisions that affect the forested land base, you are practicing professional forestry. As a registered forest professional, only you have the legal right to make those decisions. The responsibility is large, but so are the rewards. As you may have gleaned from these remarks, forestry is complicated. There isn't always a clear and obvious answer to every situation you will encounter. Despite everything that you learned in school and the skills you acquired during your articling period, you will have to rely on the knowledge and advice of your peers to help find your path forward. To the current practicing and retired forest professionals who may be watching, I urge you to always be open to helping and mentoring those new forest professionals by helping them to grow their competence as forest professionals and embracing the new ideas and energy they bring to the workplace. To our inductees, know that it's a given within our profession that we share our knowledge and experience for the betterment of the forest environment, and the public interest. While it may be intimidating to approach someone with 30 years or more of forestry experience, remember that we all started where you are today. Don't be afraid to make connections, seek advice, soak up the knowledge of your fellow foresters. Now I'd like to turn the virtual stage over to Kathleen Willis Rpf, a forest professional who embodies the spirit of mentorship and the sharing of knowledge to give the charge to the inductees. Last year at our Nanaimo conference, Catherine received the Distinguished Forest Professional Award. That award recognizes forest professionals for outstanding contributions to the forestry profession and for furthering the principles of the ABCFP. Catherine is known for her depth of knowledge and her support and guidance for young professionals. Over a 40-year career, Catherine has worked in the North Thompson, Caribou, Northern Interior, Vancouver Island, and coastal mainland for consulting firms, licensees, government, and First Nations. And she played a pivotal role in the implementation of ecosystem-based management in the Great Bear Rainforest. In 2017, Catherine joined Strategic Natural Resource Consultants to lead an integrated environmental management team. Under her leadership, this team pursued many non-traditional projects, from carbon sequestration to private forest land estate modeling. Please join me in welcoming Catherine Willis.
Hello, my name is Catherine Willis, and I'm really pleased to be here today. When the phone rang and Cheryl Waddell called from the association, my first reaction was, I'm going to get caught in an audit. And the question that I think all of you are going to feel over the years in your career is the concern about record keeping. Thankfully, that's not why she called me, and I'm here today to talk to you about a few things I'd like to pass on from my 40 years as a forester. So tips and tricks from the front line of forestry worker. First of all, who are we? What kind of people are you going to get associated with? I've got some big, broad ideas of who we are. Obviously, they don't apply to everyone, but I think we're an interesting group of people. I think most of us are pretty adventurous. I think you'll find a lot of us recreating outside in the backcountry. I think we're capable. I'll bet you all have a garage full of sporting equipment, and I bet you it's used in all seasons. You're going to run into some characters in our work. What I'd like you to think about is, I'm not sure we've done a great job in being advocates for our science. It'd be great to see the new inductees, the COVID inductees, I'm going to call you folks, take on that advocacy role, perhaps you can be a bit more outspoken and present to the public our science. I think that would be wonderful. I think the public think of foresters as pretty cool people. You'll recall back in the 90s when Subaru launched their new vehicle, they didn't call it the Subaru Accountant, they called it the Subaru Forester. I think that's our ethos. We're practical folks. We're going to get you out safely. We're going to take care of business. I've got some advice. I think it's really worthwhile as you go through your career in forestry that you think about being an excellent observer. I think that when you are out in your landscape, when you're doing your work, if you make really excellent observations, and not only about the work that you're doing, but the topography, your landscapes, take a look at the lay of the land, understand where you are in relation to your planned activity. You will likely have spent quite a bit of time looking at inventory maps, looking at location maps. Take that knowledge and print it in your brain. Go out in the field, look at the sky, watch for prevailing winds, understand catastrophic winds, take a look at flooding events, drought events, watch tides, watch the ebb and flow of animals through your landscape, watch for their footprints, listen to them. It's nothing like being an expert in watching for poop. It's a lot of fun to talk to your colleagues about what poop you saw that day and what animals you think it came from. Watch out for the cultural and historic evidence that you'll see in your landscape. If you take that seriously and become an excellent observer, you'll go back to your office and have more information. You'll be able to recall the places you've been, and I think it adds to the depth of your practice. Once you've got that in place, you're going to become a better navigator. Be one of those people. As you observe the lay of the land and you're watching for the major navigation aids in your landscape, you're going to be better situated to figure out where you are. So when you're on that day and on that road and you've got the crew and you need to get to your place, don't look down at your device and look at the blue dot. First, look up. Ask your brain. Make your observations. You'll be surprised at how quickly and easily you are not always referring to that blue dot and that device, but you're making observations. It makes you for a better navigator. I think it helps you understand what your landscape, and I think it'll work well for you in the future. So observe, increase your navigation. We use an awful lot of tools and vehicles in our work. Throughout your career, you're going to be driving a lot. You're going to be driving, you're going to be taking helicopters, aircraft, boats. Hopefully you'll feel comfortable. If you don't hesitate to go out and get professional training for certainly trucks if that's not your expertise. Ask your co-workers how to be prepared, how to be comfortable. Don't be embarrassed to point out that riding in helicopters, you can often have upset tummies. Get gravel. Be practical, be realistic, ask the questions that make you comfortable, and then you will love the travel as an aspect of the adventure of the work we do. I also think it's reasonable that you put a lot of work and effort into getting the very best gear that you can. Buy good boots. If you need to get them custom made, spend the money, do it. Buy the best rain gear, the best winter gear. Ask your colleagues. Don't be that person who always gets cold and miserable and grumpy and never seems to actually do anything about it. That will make your career miserable. I also recommend that you become familiar with the business of what we do. You may, in the early parts of your career, be quite siloed into a specific aspect of forestry. That doesn't mean you can't explore other areas of our work. I highly recommend that you sign up for a free subscription to the Truck Loggers Association monthly magazine. It's called The Truck Logger. Give it a read. You'll become familiar with issues and constraints and problems that you might otherwise not become aware of. I think the broader you can be in your exploration, I think that the wider you can look at asking questions. You don't need to become an expert, but you should require yourself to understand valuation of stands, log prices, log transportation, certainly road building constraints. You should be able to be familiar with issues in your landscape about governance, about license holders, obligations, opportunities. You should be somewhat familiar with the appraisal system. You should certainly be able to know how to do a survey. And once you've got that basic information, when issues come up in your work and your landscape, you're going to be more broad and nuanced in the way you can attend to these things. It's probably not on to say, oh, I've never been exposed to this issue, I don't know anything about it. There's a lot of easily digested basic material out there on what's going on in our industry. Hopefully you're paying attention to that you're up to speed. The Association of BC Professional Forester magazine is a wonderful read it cover to cover every month. The Canadian Forest Industries also put out a journal, well worth a read, and there's any number of other journals, newsletters that you should probably put at the side of your desk and try to keep up to date on issues. I think that it is extremely worthy profession that you've entered. I'm at the very end, like 5 minutes away from ditching out here from 40 years of being active in this business, starting out at BCIT and now a professional forester. I've never regretted the choices I made to become a professional. I think you will find yourself in a wide variety of employers. You might enter consulting, you might be involved in governments, you might go to industry or advocacy. I've enjoyed big chunks of my career in each of those employer groups, and I believe that has built a very broad base of understanding of the different aspects. It is really worth your while to get that basic knowledge in licenses and obligations and opportunities for those who hold cutting authority. I really do think you need to know about the tendering process and the contract process and obligations that come from that. I think it's worthwhile that you understand the particular work you're doing for your employer throughout different employers, different stages in your career, that you understand and acknowledge what it takes to get you doing your job. There's nothing like going out on an expensive day where helicopters or boats may have been involved for you to get on site and realize you forgot that, fill in the blank. Can't really happen in our business, so you become very diligent about setting yourself up correctly, and you will be quite successful. So it's now your day, it's your celebration, it's widely understood there must have been some huge challenges in becoming, to gain your status during a world pandemic. I'm sure you'll have tales to tell about how much more difficult that process was. So I'd like to call you the COVID inductees. Perhaps that's not welcome, but that's how you will be remembered. And I'd like to give a huge shout out to each and every one of you. Please celebrate. Big thank you to your sponsors and your peers who have supported you throughout this process. And so I lift a glass of grape juice to all of you, and big, huge congratulations and welcome to this fabulous profession. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Now I want to introduce our 2020 valedictorians who scored the highest average marks combined on the 3 exams required to become an RPF or RFT. Devin Murray, RPF, and Kathleen Harfman, RFT. Congratulations to both Devin and Kathleen. We'll hear first from Devin, our RPF valedictorian, and then we'll hear from Kathleen, our RFT valedictorian. Over to you, valedictorians.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to say how grateful I am to live on the traditional territory of the Kwakwala-speaking people, including the Namgis and Kwagalath First Nation. Next, I want to thank my sponsor, Mike DeRoche. Mike, although your knees are shot from all the bush days over your 25-plus year career, I can say with certainty that your forestry ethics will never require surgery. But in all seriousness, get well soon. I also want to acknowledge Barb Drennan, last year's RFT of the year, not only for sharing her knowledge, but being so proactive in her job recruitment. It was her efforts that led to the big break that I needed to advance my career. My last shout out is to Trent Rivet, an amazing operations manager and friend who reignited my passion for forestry. He was the first manager to endorse my skills, the company ownership, and that really renewed my optimism and allowed me to continue my professional development. Overall, my journey to becoming an RPF certainly had its peaks and valleys, and it was quite different than the normal route that most forest professionals take nowadays. After 18 years of work and education and a brief hiatus from the industry to experience the life of an entrepreneur, I'm very thankful for my difficult route because of the perspective it has afforded me. Having worked in multiple provinces and in many avenues of forestry for government and industry and consultants, I have learned so much. And not just about the science or economics of forest management, but about the politics involved in this industry. Like many in this profession, I've experienced those valleys related to paying for an expensive education while working long hours and poor-paying jobs, or being a hard-working, over-educated, and ethical forest professional that's under-implemented or even ignored. And of course, those valleys related to the unexpected job loss or seasonal layoffs that are all too common in this industry. And of course, those ethical struggles when you're making forest management decisions with conflicting values between the company's best interest and your own professional opinion. I can assure you from the path that I walk that it's from these types of struggles that you truly build resilience. Do not remain jaded. It happens to many in this industry at some point in your career. Just know that the positives of our profession, a profession that helped build this province, outweigh the struggles in the long run. My advice is to focus on the peaks, including the amazing forests and wildlife and scenery we get to experience. The little things like commutes to work on ATVs or snowmobiles, boats or helicopters. Completing those rewarding projects that balance the working forest and environmental health. The peaks related to the positive effects your daily activities have on the economy and livelihood of hardworking British Columbians. And of course, getting to know and learn from dedicated professionals. Always keep a positive perspective and a great work ethic. Those are the tools that are going to allow you to succeed in forestry or any walk of life. And remember, this profession offers memories, a connection to nature, and working relationships unmatched by any other job. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I am Kathleen Harfman, joining you from lovely Prince George. Thank you for being here virtually, and I hope you are all well and healthy. I must admit, it's a little bit of a different experience speaking in front of a screen rather than seeing everybody's faces, but it's all good. So I just want to start by wishing you congratulations on reaching this milestone. I know it was hard work, and I'm excited for all of us that it has finally paid off. Becoming a forestry professional required a lot of time and dedication, as you well know. I can remember working a 10 or 11-hour day in the bush and then spending evenings in camp going through the modules and preparing for exams. My coworkers were enjoying a campfire or watching movies, and I was studying policy and other riveting legislation. But it paid off, and the effort was worth it. Things worth doing will always require effort and hard work. I remember feeling discouraged one day, and somebody wise said to me, "How do you eat an elephant?" Well, the only way you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Going through college or university and then working through 2 years of articling can feel like a long process. It's a big elephant. And not every bite is prime rib either. There's some tough old toenails in there too. However, slowly and surely, one bite at a time, we all got to where we are today. So congratulations. Now, none of us would be here right now without support. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge the sponsors, supervisors, employers, coworkers, and family who helped, supported, mentored, and created opportunities for us to meet our goals and gain the experience we needed to become forestry professionals. You shared your time, knowledge, and experience with us. Thank you. We appreciate you so much and could not have done it without you. When I was deciding what to say to you, I reflected about how you're all professionals. I feel humbled to give you this address, and it was a daunting task to try to inspire you with something you haven't heard before. So I simply decided to share with you today something that has helped me and driven me to challenge myself. Have you ever heard of a flea jar? I learned about flea jars while reading an excellent book by a man named Denny Emerson. It was ultimately a book about choices. Choices and how every conscious or unconscious choice we make shapes our path in life. In this book, Mr. Emerson describes an experiment where fleas were placed in a jar with a lid on it. The fleas jumped around, hitting their heads on the lid of the jar until they learned the boundaries of their confinement. Afterwards, the lid could be removed without the fleas ever jumping high enough to escape the jar. They were set in their understanding of their surroundings. Had they only realized the sky was their limit, they could have jumped out. I personally find this a great encouragement to keep pushing my own flea jar. That when something is hard or new, to keep trying until I've mastered it, and my flea jar is that little bit higher. We work in an exciting industry, and obviously we're not fleas. But in this industry, there will always be changes. There will be growth in knowledge, evolving practices, innovation, changes to legislation, climate challenges, and new technology. I want to remind you, as I remind myself, not to become so set in the confines of our flea jars that we fail to notice the lid is open. We may have completed our schooling and articling requirements and have letters behind our names, but let us not stop there. I want to encourage us to develop a lifelong habit of learning, staying on top of current changes, and continuing professional development. And I know you're already doing great work out there, so keep it up. And in closing, I want to once again thank you for being here. Thank you to our sponsors, mentors, and support networks. And to my fellow inductees, congratulations. And in the future, when you face challenges and obstacles and find yourself trying to eat an elephant, remember, one bite at a time, you will get there. And may your flea jars be ever expanding. Thank you.
Thank you, Devin and Kathleen. The BC Forest Historical Society has once again generously offered to provide our valedictorians with a gift of books on BC history in recognition of their accomplishments. Since the books cannot be presented in person, the Historical Society will mail them to Devin and Kathleen. That concludes our virtual inductees ceremony. Congratulations and good luck to all our new inductees today. You are joining a profession with a long history in BC that will both challenge and reward you. For those who are participating in the ABCFP Forestry Conference, we will resume with 2 sessions tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. You can choose from one of Modernizing Forestry, Applying Remote Sensing and Machine Learning for Forest Management, or Guidelines for Professional Services in the Forest Sector, Crossings, version 3, What You Need to Know as a Professional. Thank you and good afternoon.